Welcome to another episode of Getting There and Giving Back, the show that talks to high achievers about where they are, how they got there, and how they're giving back. Today's guest is the founder of Wehr Enterprises, a global provider of software solutions and expertise around all aspects of software lifecycle, including automation, migration, product development, and more. Nicholas Wehr, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks.
So you started out pretty young. You were coding at the age of 7, right?
Yeah.
That's fairly common now, but it wasn't back then. How did that happen?
Well, I was a library kid, so my folks would take me to the Clackamas Town Center Library or the Damascus Branch Library, and I'd spend a lot of time in the corner. I was really fascinated with technology, and back then, the way that you can get your hands on games is you've got to copy it out of a book. So I would check out these library books that have the code in there. I type it in, and after doing that a number of times, it's clicking. Like I'm learning how the control flow goes, what the different structures are, all those things, and just started grasping it and making my own little games.
Wow! And did that become the first goal? Is to someday become a big game developer when you grew up?
Not really. No, actually, I was, just probably like a lot of teenagers, I was a bit angsty. I didn't really know what I wanted. I didn't appreciate the skills that I had accumulated by my interest in technology. So it was, getting introduced to the whole industry was pretty mind-blowing because I realized I could actually make money at this. I could actually have a lot of fun. This is my thing. And so my teens and very early, adulthood was figuring out what I wanted to do, doing all sorts of different jobs, which really set me up for understanding a lot of different kinds of businesses because I had gone through a number of, employments in different types of industries. So it's pretty cool just getting all this exposure to all these different things and then kind of landing on my feet right in the tech realm and, just excelling at it because I had this, this background.
And so what kind of customers do you serve through Wehr Enterprises? Who are your clientele?
I've got a bunch, and it's usually I'm finding more work that I can handle through my network. So from all the people that I've worked with over the years, continue to have those relationships, and in their new ventures. For example, one of the companies I'm working with does machine learning solutions, and just because I've been in that field, being and people know me and know my work, and they trust me, and they reach out to me trying to bring me on board. So the types of customers, it's really all across the board. So there's kind of introductions to other people where I've got a client who has a website but hasn't really utilized it. So now we're taking that to the next level where we're going to be doing advertisement on site. We're integrating products, we're integrating analytics, and just taking it to the next level. On the other end of things, I'm doing architecture and security and DevOps design and implementation for customers.
With websites, is that becoming more common as people think that everything's moving over to apps now? Our business is putting less emphasis on what they can do with their websites for their business?
I haven't seen that actually, but the type or the way websites are done, I think, is changing. It's kind of coming to an where you have static websites and super fast websites rather than purely dynamic websites of 10, 15 years ago. There's a shift going on where there's a lot of benefit by upgrading or taking on some of these new design approaches, because then you get better rankings on the search engines, which is going to ultimately have a huge influence on the success of your business, the reach and the exposure that you get. And on the app side, I think there is a huge amount of growth there as well. So you have the pandemic time has caused a lot of businesses to really think about how they can survive and how they can take their products and take their services to the web and have people find them and be able to sell their services curbside or what have you. And then there's it's just, I think there's a lot of growth happening really. And because of the pandemic, it's helped out by having people, almost forcing people to think about it.
Right.
So the app versus website, I think they both have their place for sure. And there's tons of growth in both of those sectors.
Wow. Well, we also have more tools now. If you start a donut shop, you can get on Squarespace or just grab a WordPress template and easily make your website. But that's only the tiniest tip of the iceberg on what you really want to do to have that website successful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really depends too. And I always advise my customers, like we want to start small and we want to make achievements along the way and build upon those. And there are a lot of software and a lot of services out there that people have already adopted. And there's a lot of new ones coming out too that are a really good fit for people that don't have prior experience with this stuff. So I think the level of the learning curve and the cost of getting online is a lot lower these days, and I think consumers are kind of expecting it as well, so they're more used to it. So everybody wins in kind of this future that we're having here.
Right. And when you're talking about giving back, that's one of the things you're able to do. If you're starting any business in the world other than a technology business, you probably aren't that well versed in the technology part, whether it is that donut shop or an auto body shop or a law firm. All of these people have their expertise that have nothing to do with SEO and all of the things that you provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point. And one of the things too that particularly that I specialize in and like to do is reduce the amount of friction that it takes to go online, because and even companies that already have systems in place, it might be really difficult for them to work with their partners or work with their customers on the technology side because things are kind of old, or they're 10 years old, even 5 years old, where the software solutions that they have, they're just dated. And so getting from what they, where they're at and being able to continue to be effective and to level up and to participate in the current market is totally doable without having to chuck all the old stuff out the door, and start from scratch. That's not always necessary. Sometimes it's preferred, but when you have the right kind of talent on the job, you can retrofit things. You can, make adapters. You can figure out how to make things work, which is it's super fun.
Yeah, we all experience the rapid change now, right? Because most of us are on either Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. And, as soon as we figure out if I do these 3 or 4 things, my post will do great, they change all the rules and that stops working. But that kind of rapid change is the same, I'm asking, whether you're talking about cybersecurity or, optimizing a website. It's not enough to have someone come and get you all set up and then you need to keep rapidly changing to stay on the cutting edge, because that's how the game is being played now.
It's true. And it can get annoying too, because there's a lot of effort and investment that goes into your business of getting it into a level where you can participate. And then over time, like you said, things move on. And whether that's, updating your WordPress plugins regularly, or maybe your service provider got gobbled up by another bigger company, and now things are changing, and the cost you can no longer bear with certain providers. There's constantly things that are kind of happening where you need to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of a game changer is 5G actually going to be?
Well, 5G I can appreciate that, people will have more options. When it comes to communication, I think the real game changer is going to be the Starlink, enabling people that prior to Starlink haven't had access to broadband speeds in rural areas, and not just in the U.S. but all over the world. It's going to change, I think, the landscape of how people work, and it's all the benefits that we've had from having broadband, or I'd say all of the maybe the tethering that we've had to having to be close to high speed internet. It kind of forces you into certain lifestyles or certain places, or things that maybe people might change. Their not necessarily their behavior, but their lives, like where they choose to live and things like that.
Wow.
So I think that's going to be really cool.
And what's the timeline on that rapid change?
Probably within the next 5 years. I don't recall exactly the launch schedule that they have. I want to say 2026 off the top of my head. I'm not sure, but they continue to launch satellites.
Wow.
And there's already a constellation that's serving, I think on a beta level, it's serving a lot of the northern United States. So I think that's going to be a game changer. I'm really looking forward to that.
That's pretty exciting. So if someone's watching this right now and they have a company and haven't worked with a professional in a while, they've just had their website sitting there on the internet, what's the most likely hole in their game, if you had to guess?
I'm guessing it's going to be being found, for whether it's being found by name or being found by the type of service or products that they have. Just because the search engine world is competitive, but that's not the only way people are finding things. But it still is a very, it's probably the majority of how people are finding your products and services. But then you have social media, which is a huge player, and that's a whole different way of, that whole strategy on how you get found is completely different.
Wow. Well, you were a unicorn when you were coding at 7 years old, but I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're doing it in school. They're doing it for fun. They have apps that teach them coding, and it's like a game for them. How big of a difference is that going to make in 10 or 15 years when, almost everyone is at least kind of literate in coding?
I think it makes a huge difference. I really, just from my business relationships, and my wife and I had the privilege to travel the world for several years. And at a lot of the major cities, I would go to meetups, and I would try to make connections and talk with people in these different population centers to kind of figure out, like, where's the talent? Like, where are people going to school? How do people know these things? And what kind of industry and companies are in the area that are employing and everything? And it was a pretty big eye opener. It's kind of sad to say, but the United States, I feel, is not prioritizing that level of education so that our kids can be competitive in the world market. I see a lot of amazing talent coming out of schools like in Cruz, Romania. I've worked with a lot of people over there who are incredible, and they do great work. And you have to, and it's a result of the education that they're getting. They have really good quality programming over there for the in the academic side. So I'd love to see more of that happening. I'd love to see more interest. And I think these games and the curriculum in our own schools, I think that's going to be ever more important for us to remain a strong economy and a leader in the space, in order to, have a good all the benefits and of kids' education.
Absolutely. Well, it's amazing what you've built for yourself all these years after that 7-year-old love affair with coding.
Yep.
And we thank you for joining us. We end every interview with 3 questions. Number 1, what's the best advice you were ever given?
I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Favorite book of all time?
That hurts. Favorites are really tough. I do read a lot of all time.
It's a brutal question because you have a bunch of books you like for a bunch of different reasons, right?
Yeah, of course. I want to name a Stephen King book because I'm such a huge fan of his work. I read a lot of fiction. I'm currently reading Metro 2033, which is a fun book. But favorite Stephen King book, I can't say. Probably the Dark Tower. Dark Tower series. I mean, it's great. Love it.
Dark Tower series. That one, people sleep on Dark Tower series. Will they ever make a good movie or TV show of it?
We'll see.
Okay. And finally, do you have a habit or a ritual that makes your life better?
Classical guitar. I play a lot of music and, I'd say music in general. My wife's a vocalist, so we play music together, and then I play solo classical guitar.
Very nice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, AJ.